White House ramps up effort to remove and alter information on climate change. Orgs working to rescue climate data before it disappears. Washington, D.C., September 30th, 2025. 8 months into President Donald Trump's second term, the administration has fundamentally distorted the federal information landscape as it continues to rewrite and erase resources about climate change, environmental justice, and climate diplomacy. In a follow-up to a previous posting on the administration's first 2 weeks of environmental data overhaul, the National Security Archive's Climate Change Transparency Project today publishes an update of the most recent actions the administration has taken to disappear climate information and what some advocates are doing to try to rescue and archive the data before it is removed from federal websites. The update also includes before and after screenshots of climate-related web pages deleted under the Trump administration. In the days immediately following President Trump's inauguration, on January 20th, 2025, the administration's most glaring deletions from federal websites had more to do with the removal of environmental justice resources and diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI language than the actual removal of climate change data, like the deletion of the Council on Environmental Quality's Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool, SECT-1, but in recent weeks and months, the White House has ramped up efforts to alter and remove critical climate resources from agency websites. As we previously reported in February, coalitions of environmental advocacy and archivist organizations continue to scrape, preserve, and protect these critical climate and environmental data. Throughout the second Trump administration, groups like the Environmental Data and Governance Initiative, EDGI, and Public Environmental Data Partners, PEDP, working with staff from the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine, have updated the public on massive data losses and have monitored changes to thousands of federal government web pages through online web trackers. Likewise, scientists, environmental scholars, and historians continue to speak out about the administration's climate denialism and anti-science rhetoric. This dismantling of access to public information is part of the Trump administration's denial by erasure strategy, which aims to eradicate climate change references from absolutely everywhere, and that was first outlined in a Project 2025 training video. 3 recent data erasures and alterations, such as the Department of Energy's efforts to remove or manipulate scientific reports, and the Environmental Protection Agency's erosion of its own regulatory powers, greatly complicate the ability of federal agencies to study, enforce, and inform the public about climate policy, and likewise inhibit public efforts to hold the government to account on environmental issues. The biggest blow to climate data access was the June 30 removal of the National Climate Assessments, NCAAs, and the shuttering of the U.S. Global Change Research Program, USGCRP webpage, the federal website which housed the assessments. For Figure 1, the congressionally mandated NCAs are published quadrennially and involve the work of hundreds of scientists who translate complex scientific data into accessible information for the public. These reports are used widely at the state and local levels by policymakers, farmers, and businesses, and can help them prepare for the impact of heat waves, droughts, and floods. Scientists and environmentalists first feared the assessments were at risk in April, when 400 experts working on the 6th version of the assessment were dismissed. 5. When the USGCRP website went dark at the end of June, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, ensured the public that it would continue to host the NCAA reports to comply with the statutory mandate. Days later, however, NASA walked back its statement, stating it had already complied with the requirements by presenting its reports to Congress and was not obligated to host the previous 5 reports. 6. Although the climate assessments are no longer housed on NASA's website, they can still be found on the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's NOAA Institutional Repository and on other non-governmental platforms. 8. Figure 2. At present, it is unclear whether work will continue on the upcoming 6th assessment, which was set to be published in early 2028, or if the report will be made available only to Congress. Even if a public-facing sixth national climate assessment is published, its scientific integrity could be compromised, as underscored by Energy Secretary Chris Wright's comments that the administration will alter previously published NCAs. 9. Similarly, the scientific community has denounced a recent report from the Department of Energy's Climate Change Working Group on the climate impacts of greenhouse gas emissions for cherry-picking scientific data and bypassing typical scientific review processes. At the time of Part 1 of this posting, references to climate change on the Environmental Protection Agency's EPA website had been deleted, but various climate change resources had remained untouched. But this changed in August, when the EPA removed web pages dedicated to climate adaptation, programs aimed at addressing extreme heat, and climate risk assessment resources. Figures 3 to 6. These deletions come on the heels of EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin's proposal to completely overhaul the independent agency's regulatory agenda. 11. In July, Zeldin revealed a plan to rescind the agency's landmark 2009 endangerment finding and, more recently, to eliminate its greenhouse gas reporting program, which requires businesses to report their greenhouse gas emissions. 12. Notably, the EPA's web pages on climate change and climate change impacts appear to be largely unchanged since before President Trump took office. Figures 7 and 8. Another massive data loss came this summer when NOAA staff running climate.gov, the website of the agency's climate program office, were fired in what they called a targeted attack. 13. Figure 9. The independent, nonpartisan website published information about changing weather patterns, droughts, agricultural best practices, changes to the Earth's atmosphere, and greenhouse gas emissions. 14. Currently, the climate.gov domain reroutes users to noaa.gov climate. Read the noaastamit.gov contributors recently announced plans to launch an independent website that will house the contents of the shuttered climate.gov. This preservation announcement comes as a welcome reprieve to scientists, environmentalists, and data access specialists. But NOAA has also experienced losses to several publicly available National Centers for Environmental Information NCEI data sets and retired its billion-dollar weather and climate disasters database. 17. Figure 11. President Trump's proposed budget cuts would also shut down the agency's Mauna Loa Observatory, the longest continuously running observatory measuring carbon dioxide in the world. The site, which has collected data on atmospheric changes since 1958, is part of a larger global network of stations that monitor the atmosphere. The proposed cuts at Mauna Loa and 3 other stations in Alaska, American Samoa, and the South Pole would remove the pole-to-pole understanding of greenhouse gases now enjoyed by the United States. Experts believe these data losses, coupled with severe cuts in agency funding, will erode the backbone to tracking greenhouse gas emissions. NASA is also at risk for severe budget cuts next month when Congress begins fiscal year 2026. President Trump has proposed $6 billion in cuts to the agency, a 24% reduction in NASA's current budget. This reduction would include funding cuts to 2 satellites integral to climate science, Orbit Carbon Observatory 2 and -3, or O2 and -3. For years, these satellites have provided scientists with some of the best data available on atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations. The retirement of OCO2 and -3, which are currently in good condition and operate at a low cost, would take the United States out of the information-generating game. Notably, NASA's Global Climate Change page is still accessible, although at the time of this publication, a banner message at the top of the site states that the website is going to look a little different in the coming months as it's moving to a more integrated portal on science.nasa.gov. 19. Figure 12. NOAA and NASA play a critical role in national security by supporting the United States defense and intelligence communities through data collection and analysis, and cuts are likely to impact critical agencies like the Department of Defense, DoD, which has already erased important climate data sets and resources from public view on its own initiative. On February 6, DoD, which has since been rebranded as the Department of War, removed its webpage on tackling the climate crisis, and with it, the DoD Climate Resilience Portal. Figure 13. This portal was a one-stop focal point for scientifically credible, authoritative, and actionable climate change information, including tools for climate assessment overseas and regional sea level rise, resources for U.S. Air Force and Navy climate services to be used for joint planning exercises, and programs to better manage DoD infrastructure using environmental data. Figure 14. Similarly, the White House initially halted data collection by DoD's Defense Meteorological Satellite Program, a program that has been crucial to storm and hurricane forecasting, but the Navy has since announced that it will continue sharing data with NOAA until fall 2026. 20. Earlier this year, the most recent annual threat assessment, presented to Congress by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, omitted all mention of climate change, the first to do so in over a decade. There have also been severe cuts in federal workers dedicated to dealing with climate change. Several offices dedicated to climate work across the executive branch have had significant staff cuts or will have their funding cut in FY 2026 and be eliminated altogether. The EPA will officially eliminate its Office of Research and Development ORD branch as part of a reduction in force for all ORD employees. 22. The Environmental Agency will also shutter its Office of Atmospheric Protection, OAP, and Office of Air Quality Planning and Standards, OAPs. 23. OAP and OAQs are both housed under the larger Office of Air and Radiation, OR, which Zeldin has said will absorb much of OAP and OAQ's work. However, the reality is murkier given the administrator's proposals to curb EPA's regulatory standards. At the State Department, Secretary of State and National Security Advisor and Archivist of the United States, Marco Rubio announced a complete overhaul of the department and has fired more than 1,000 employees. 24 of the restructuring included deep cuts in all of states' work on human rights, democracy, refugees, and climate. Offices dedicated to climate diplomacy, multilateral negotiations, and climate aid were also gutted. Chief among them, the Office of Global Change and the Office of the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, 25 at the time of this publication. The URL for the Office of Global Change is still live, but the URL for the Office of the Climate Envoy yields an error stating, "We apologize for the inconvenience." Figures 15 and 16. At the start of President Trump's second term, more than 2,000 data sets disappeared from data.gov, the largest repository of U.S. government open data on the internet. Now it appears that over 50,000 data sets have been added to the repository. Figure 17, however, a comparison of screenshots taken before January 20th to screenshots taken at the time of this posting reveal that thousands of data sets from NOAA and the Department of Interior, along with data sets across topics like the Arctic, climatology and meteorology, ecosystem vulnerability, coastal flooding, carbon balance, and winter storms, have been removed. Figure 18, but monitoring datasets on data.gov is complicated. Sometimes datasets that are no longer listed on data.gov can live elsewhere on other federal websites. A report from 404 Media found that datasets no longer available through the portal disproportionately come from NOAA, NASA, the Department of Interior, Department of Energy, and the EPA. But determining what is actually gone is a manual task that will take much more time. Data rescue coalitions are working feverishly to download climate data and resources before they disappear and are encouraging activists, journalists, and researchers to engage with the data. For example, EDGI's Federal Environmental Web Tracker makes changes to federal websites publicly available and searchable. 27 organizations like the Data Rescue Project have built a catalog of existing public data rescue efforts to coordinate better across initiatives, and Harvard's Library Innovation Lab has released its own archive of data.gov, making it easier for researchers and the public to cite government information. Indeed, taxpayers are engaging with this vital data, as evidenced in a lawsuit brought forth by farmers suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture for deleting climate tools. Despite this patchwork effort, The archiving of government data on climate and the environment is expansive and so far has been operating on a largely voluntary basis. EDGI co-founder Gretchen Gerke told the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists that rescue efforts simply can't fill the gaps left by the administration's erasure agenda. Little nonprofits are not going to be sending up a satellite and collecting climate data. We are at the mercy of our government to collect this data for the public good. And if they choose not to, I don't think there's a lot that we can do about it. 29. Click on the images below to see some examples of how the Trump administration has deleted federal climate data. Disappearing data part 2 figures. Figure 1. U.S. Global Change Research Program USGCRP website before and after screenshots. The website previously housed all previously published national climate assessments. Left image is an Internet Archive Wayback Machine screenshot from June 27, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the globalchange.gov URL taken on September 22, 2025. Figure 2. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Institutional Repository website, National Security Archive screenshot taken on September 22, 2025. With the exception of the second National Climate Assessment NCA2, all published national climate assessments can be found on NOAA's Institutional Repository website. Figure 3, Environmental Protection Agency Climate Risk Assessment Resources webpage before and after screenshots. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from July 26, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 22, 2025. Figure 4, EPA's Climate Adaptation webpage before and after screenshots. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from July 30th, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 22nd, 2025. Figure 5. EPA's Programs and Actions to Address Extreme Heat webpage before and after screenshots. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from July 30th, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 22nd, 2025. Figure 6. EPA's Climate Resilience and Adaptation Funding Toolbox webpage before and after screenshots. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from July 30th, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 22nd, 2025. EPA's Climate Change webpage before and after screenshot shows the website is unchanged from the previous administration. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from January 18th, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 22nd, 2025. FIGPA's Climate Change Impacts webpage before and after screenshots shows the website is unchanged from the previous administration. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from January 18th, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 22nd, 2025. Figure 9, taken of NOAA's shutteredclimate.gov website on June 23, 2025. Figure 10, the shutteredclimate.gov URL now redirects users to NOAA's climate webpage at noaa.climate National Security Archive, screenshot taken on September 22nd, 2025. Figure 11, NOAA's National Centers for Environmental Information NCEI billion-dollar weather climate disasters webpage before and after screenshots. The comparison shows the same website, but the right image shows a new banner announcement stating that the database will no longer be updated. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from January 18th, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 23rd, 2025. Figure 12, National Security Archive screenshot of NASA's global climate page, taken on September 23, 2025. The banner announcement states that the website will be heading to a new home, although an updated URL is not included in the announcement. Figure 13. Department of Defense tackling the climate crisis website before and after screenshots. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from February 6, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 23, 2025. Figure 14. Department of Defense Climate Resilience portal before and after screenshots. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from January 18, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 23, 2025. Figure 15. Department of State Office of Global Change webpage before and after screenshots. The office has been eliminated per Secretary of State Marco Rubio's reorganization of the agency, but the office's website is still live and largely unchanged from the previous administration, except for the highlighted text above. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from February 13, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 23, 2025. Figure 16, Department of State Office of the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate webpage before and after screenshots. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from April 17, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 23, 2025. Website data.gov. Website before and after screenshots comparing total number of open datasets. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from January 18, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 23, 2025. Figure 18. Organizations datasets on data.gov before and after screenshots depicting removed NOAA and Department of Interior datasets. Left image is a Wayback Machine screenshot from January 16, 2025. Right image is a National Security Archive screenshot of the page taken on September 23, 2025. 1. Kelly Wilkins Steinroot, Eric Nost, Gretchen Gerke, and Environmental Data and Governance Initiative. Trump removes access to our new coalition restores it. January 31st, 2025. 2. Kate Yoder, why the federal government is making climate data disappear. Grist, July 14th, 2025. 3. Yoder Grist. 4. Rebecca, National Climate Report website goes dark. The New York Times, July 1st, 2025. Rebecca Zombak. All authors working on flagship U.S. climate report are dismissed. The New York Times, April 28, 2025. 6. Finya Swai, NASA pulls back from promise to host major climate change reports, citing legal loophole. Inside Climate News, July 15, 2025. 7. NOAA Institutional Repository. 8. Open Climate U.S. National Climate Assessments complete. 9. Ella Nilsen, Energy Chief, suggests Trump administration is altering previously published climate reports. CNN, August 7, 2025. 10. Climate experts review of the DOE Climate Working Group report. 11. Maxine Joselo, EPA, moves to dismantle dozens of Biden's environmental rules. The Washington Post, March 12, 2025. 12. Jake Spring, EPA says companies shouldn't have to report planet warming emissions. The Washington Post, September 12, 2025. 13. Eric Holthaus, major U.S. climate website likely to be shut down after almost all staff fired. The Guardian, June 11, 2025. 14. Rebecca Hersher, a popular climate website will be hobbled after Trump administration eliminates. Entire staff, NPR, June 12, 2025. 15. NOAAclimate.gov, redirect webpage. 16. Andrew Friedman, climate.gov will relaunch under new URL thanks to a secret team of web ninjas. CNN, August 28, 2025. 17 NOAA to stop tracking cost of climate crisis to fuel disasters. Major loss, The Guardian, May 8, 2025. 18. Rebecca Zombach, after 7 decades of measurements from a peak in Hawaii, Trump's budget would end them. The New York Times, July 17, 2025. 19. Nicholas Kuznets, will NASA kill a pair of critical climate satellites? Inside Climate News, September 8, 2025. 20. Chelsea Harvey, Trump terminates satellite data considered crucial to storm forecasting. E&E News, June 27, 2025. Paywall and Zeta Ballinger Fletcher, in reversal, Navy will share satellite data with NOAA until fall 2026. Military Times, July 31st, 2025. 21. Rachel Santarciero, spying on climate inside the intelligence community's environmental legacy, the National Security Archive, June 30th, 2025. 22. Eric Stockstad, in Blow to the Environment, EPA begins to dismantle its research office, Science, July 22nd, 2025. 23. Gene Kemnick, EPA reorganization signals end to climate work, E&E News, May 5th, 2025. 24. State debt begins firing nearly 1,400 workers. The New York Times, July 11th, 2025. 25. Sarah Schoenhart, Rubio eliminates office that oversees climate talks. Politico, April 24th, 2025. 26. Jason Kobler, archivists work to identify and save the thousands of data sets disappearing from data.gov 404 Media, January 30th, 2025. 27. Environmental Data and Governance Initiative, EnviroFed Web Tracker. 28. Tracking the lawsuits against the Trump administration, Associated Press. 29. Jessica McKenzie, we're losing our environmental history, the future of government information under Trump. Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist, March 5th, 2025.